Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up working on that 57 Chevy. The only thing I have to do left is I have to pull the distributor out and put it in the correct position, and then I have to adjust the throttle linkage so that the accelerator will work to its full potential. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull out my car, and then the 57 Chevy will probably be over here in about 10-15 minutes. So I'm pulling out my car right now. Okay, we've started on doing this distributor now, and what we've done so far is we had to jack up the car to hook up my remote starter. When you hit this, it turns the engine over, and what you have to do is you pull out this #1 spark plug over here, and when you do that, you have to put your finger in there while you're turning the engine over, and when it compresses, when it blows, it blows your finger out. That means it's on the compression side. And that's where the balancer has to be lined up with the 0. It has to be the compression stroke of the #1 piston. It has to be in the up position. And then that has to be on the number 0, the balancer mark. And we've got all that squared away right now. So you've got the balancer with the timing mark on the 0, smack dead on the 0. What we're going to do now is we're going to position the distributor where it's supposed to be, and then we'll pull the distributor cap off and see how far off the distributor is. So that's where we're at right now. Okay, here's the distributor. We have it pulled out now. We already checked the gap on the points, and they seem to be where they were last time I gapped them. And what we had to do is we destroyed the gasket when we took the distributor out, so we made another gasket right here. And we're getting ready to install it right now. We do have it lined up with a piece of tape right here. That line on the tape on the intake goes right to where the #1 plug on the distributor is. So we got the distributor itself to line up with that line while it's on top dead center on the compression side. So we're going to go ahead and install the distributor, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we got it running. What we did was we pulled out the distributor, we stuck it in the correct position. Instead of it being hanging over the intake, now it's got some adjustability to it. See how the vacuum advance is not dragging on the intake like it was last time. And then what else did we do? We cleaned out the vacuum advance. We pulled off that hose, pulled off that fitting, sprayed some brake clean in there and then blew it out with compressed air. And then we made sure that that vacuum line that's going to that was clean and obstruct free. And then we went ahead and took off the vacuum line going to the carburetor. Right there. We went ahead and took that off and made sure that it was no blockage in there also. So what we're doing now is we're letting it idle until it warms up. And then once it warms up, we'll go ahead and remove that vacuum hose on the vacuum advance, put a plug in it, a golf tee or another bolt. And then what we do is we look at the timing down here. So we still have to do that. This time it started and ran like it was supposed to by itself, so we might be getting close to whatever the problem is with this car. It's idling pretty nice right now. I'll go ahead and let you listen to it back here. We even got condensation on the ground, so that means this thing is running pretty clean. Water coming out the exhaust, but it sounds good. Okay, I feel some heat coming off the motor now, so we think we're up to operating temperature. Got some heat coming through the coolant system. Let's check the temperature gauge. Looks like we're up to operating temperature. We're going to go ahead and unplug the vacuum hose going to the vacuum advance, put a plug in it. Yeah, it looks like we got it as close as we're going to on the second line up from the zero, which makes it 4 degrees top before top dead center. So we're going to go ahead and lock her down right there and see how she gives a rev after this. Okay, we still got a backfire going on here. We're going to go ahead and recommend a distributor replacement. We've got all the specs dialed in like they're supposed to. For some reason, we're not getting the correct spark. So we're going to go ahead and recommend a replacement distributor. Okay, we talked the customer into a new distributor. And that's what this is right now. This is a new distributor we just picked up. And what we're doing now is we're checking the gap in the points just to make sure that they're correct. And the correct gap for this point system is 16 thousandths. So that would be this right here. It says 16 thousandths on there. And the part we're checking is right here. This is the gap. See how it's got a little drag on it? That's the gap on the points. You got them set at 16 thousandths. The way you achieve the gap on these points is make sure that this lobe is on the high part of actuating these points. See how it's opening and closing? Make sure that the top part of that lobe, the high part of the lobe, is opening the gap. And then you adjust them with this screw right here, this screw right here, and this screw right here. And just work on it, take your time, and you should get it right. We're getting ready to install this distributor into this 57 Chevy. Okay, we're getting ready to drop the distributor into the hole in the intake. And the hole we're going to stick it into is right there. The plug wires are kind of in the way right now, but we'll move those once we start installing this distributor. And you got to remember the number one plug, which is the thing on the rotor that's pointing, has to line up with this mark on the intake right here. So we're getting ready to stick that in right now. Here's where the rotor is pointing. And here's where the line is on the tape that we marked on the intake, because we've got to remember this was pointing to the number one plug on the distributor cap here. So this is as close as we've been able to get it so far. Go ahead and put the tie down on the distributor, the lockdown. Make sure we have enough wire to go to the coil. And then we'll go ahead and get this thing started up again.